I listen to the Founders podcast every day. Just raise your hands. How many of you listen to the Founders podcast? We've got a few hands, but it needs to be a lot more hands. So what I found with the Founders podcast is he has about 412 or some number of episodes like that. And he reads a book, and it's not a summary of a book, but he really analyzes it and he kind of correlates it with other books and so on. So what I found is that there were books that I had read. These are mostly business biographies and so on, but he's also talking about artists and, Picasso or Michelangelo or, Winston Churchill. So, Alexander the Great, Ernest Shackleton, just all over the place. He's got all these leaders in different fields. What I found is that when I had read a particular book and then I listened to the podcast, I'm getting insights about that book from the podcast that I never got when I read the book. And this I noticed over and over again with multiple episodes. So what I realized is he's a far better reader than I am. He's much better at reading a book than I am, and he's much better at extracting, because what he was extracting from these books that I had read, I wish I had extracted that, because those were real nuggets. And so I realized that if I read a book, I can maximum read maybe 2 books a week if I'm going full out, more like 1 a week or something. But the podcast is 1 hour. And usually I'm listening to at least an hour a day of Founders podcast. So I said, wow, this is like the Miller commercial. It tastes great and it's less filling. Only people of my age would understand that. The younger crowd has no idea what I said. What I realized is that it's better for me to listen to a podcast about a book that Senra has done than to actually go read the book, because the book's going to take me 10, 15, 20 hours. This is 1 hour. After 20 hours, I'm not getting the extraction that he's giving me. So it was just amazing. So it was like taking the first model, which is take a simple idea and take it seriously. The second thing is that when we read books, we censor them. So we choose what books we want to read. And that distorts it kind of narrows what data we're taking in. I have no control over which books David Senra puts in the Founders podcast. And so I decided that I'm going to listen to every podcast he did, no matter what the author or subject or whatever it is, because I'm going to take all those inputs, because that will introduce randomness. That's another model. Introduce randomness into your life. Charlie Munger was a big proponent of that, because that introduces randomness. Randomness is really important. And so the Founders podcast, I think, made me so much more efficient. So I've now listened to about 270 of his episodes. I started with the most recent one. I worked backwards. Now I'm listening to the episodes that were recorded September 2020, but I'm going to go all the way back to probably in the next maybe 6 or 8 months or 10 months. I'll finish all of them. Business Breakdowns is another one, which is great. Acquired is another one. So I'm going to overdose, go all in, take it seriously, extract everything from these podcasts. So I think that the podcasts are great and we should go all in. So that's an example of another mental model where you combine model 1 and model 14 and it gets you somewhere, which is a great place to be. I think if you read these 3 books, Poor Charlie's Almanac, influenced by Robert Cialdini, who's a good friend, and the one I came across most recently because of the Founders podcast is one by Kevin Kelly. I think these 3 books are better than any college degree. They're going to teach you a lot more than any college can teach you. And they're so accessible and they're so cheap. So it's just really excellent. Best things in life are free.